1849, St. Clair County fell victim to a cholera pandemic. Cholera is an acute disorder of the gastrointestinal tract that begins with diarrhea, vomiting, and severe muscular cramps and can result in death. Cholera victims usually succumb to their symptoms within 1 to 3 days. Cholera has been described by some as the most terrifying disease of the 19th century. The first wave of cholera hit the U.S. in 1832, followed by a second in 1848, and was followed by shorter spikes in infections after 1854. Cholera was first recorded in Illinois in March of 1849 in Quincy. Little was known about the disease, and rumors about infection and symptoms created panic in the citizens of the state. Diaries and letters from the era are filled with fear and worries about contracting the disease. Cholera's presence in Illinois started north and moved south along the Mississippi Valley, likely carried by steamboats. The advancement in transportation from the 1832 episode to 1849 made the spread of cholera much quicker. The epidemic source was largely unknown to the population at large. Sanitation and unclean water sources were later discovered as the likely cause of the disease. President Zachary Taylor issued a proclamation on August 3, 1849, calling for a prayer throughout the nations for the cholera victims. St. Clair County had 346 deaths from June through September of 1849. Captain Joseph B. Coughlin lost both of his parents, a brother and a sister, within 3 days due to cholera. He was then raised by his aunt and received an appointment to Annapolis when he was 16 years old. As the mortality rate in St. Louis increased through May of 1849, Belleville residents were encouraged by their seeming escape from infection. However, in June, the first case occurred with 10 more to follow in short order. Throughout the summer, the number of reported cases grew daily. Some reports claim there were as many as 20 cases a day for barely 5,000 residents. From May to June of 1849, there were reported 92 deaths. By July 27th, 200 cholera-related deaths had occurred. Many families chose to leave the city and head out to the countryside in hopes of escaping infection. Businesses closed, stores shuttered, and people refused to visit the city. Families reported losing multiple children within a few hours of each other. Citizens were terrified of getting sick and constantly mourning those who passed. The cemeteries were welcoming a steady stream of funeral trains throughout the summer of 1849. Sister Mary Emra, born Vesta Susan Licht, moved to Millstadt in 1849 with her parents. Shortly after arriving, her parents contracted cholera and died. Vesta was adopted by neighbors. During the epidemic, 3 men rode their horses onto the public square. When they stopped to water their horses, one man fell off his horse and was believed to be suffering the effects of cholera. The men picked him up and tried to bring him to the Belleville house, but the proprietress, Mrs. Tannehill, barred the door to prevent the spread of infection. He later died at a nearby store. Ironically, Mrs. Tannehill would be the first citizen of Belleville to die of cholera. It is now known that cholera is spread through the ingestion of water and food contaminated by the Vibrio cholerae bacterium. A harsh winter is credited with ending a previous cholera pandemic in 1823. The 1849 pandemic eventually died out, largely due to the development of effective water and sewage treatment systems. Although these improvements have helped to prevent the spread of cholera, the potential for future outbreaks were not defeated. Still today, the World Health Organization reports that there are 1.3 to 4 million cases of cholera every year. Places with poor sanitation, crowding, war, natural disasters, and famine typically see the largest number of cholera cases, with Africa, South Asia, and Latin America reporting the highest number of incidents.